I have the great honor of introducing our guest speaker today, Secretary Treasurer Emeritus Bill Lucey. As most of you know, Secretary Treasurer Lucey has chose to retire this last July. Even though he's retired, really all that's really done is just changed the certain amount of free time that he has, but really more redirected his efforts in other areas other than performing the work of Secretary Treasurer of this great union. However, Bill Lucey's efforts in the defense of working people, not only in this country but across the world, continues.
Yes.
Bill's efforts has continued on as he still continues to serve on the national board of the NAACP. He still continues on working and advocating for workers and public services across this country as one of the most venerated and well-respected labor leaders in the latter half of the 20th century. Bill Lucey always has been and will continue to be the heart and soul of our great union. As we talked yesterday, and where that us and AFSCME and all of us in this room are the defenders not only of our membership but all workers across this state, and Bill Lucey has been the epitome of that ideology that runs through AFSCME through and through. Brother Lucey has been an AFSCME member for 57 years. The last 37 of which as Secretary Treasurer. And Secretary Treasurer Lucey is somebody who has marched with greatness and also helped make great things happen. As one of the chief architects and leaders of the Memphis sanitation workers strike, he walked with Martin Luther King, and he continued on that struggle and stood side by side and led the American labor movement's efforts to fight apartheid in South Africa.
Yeah, he did.
One thing we all know here, especially in Minnesota, is that Brother Bill Lucey has always stood for what is best for the AFSCME members, for the rank and file, and what happens in our state and local, and our state halls, and our county halls, and our school boards across this country. And as one of the best advocates for the rank and file member of AFSCME, I'd like to introduce Bill Lucey.
I would probably be wise just to take the introduction and sit down and say thank you. Thank you so much, Eric, for a very kind and generous introduction. It's always such a pleasure to come back to Minnesota. Minnesota has been such a key part of the AFSCME movement across the country. You came together and formed this really powerhouse council. We've still got a lot of work to do, but the fact that you came together and now see the benefit of having done that. I mean, Council 5 is a powerful operation in the state of Minnesota, and you're to be proud for what you've done. You've constantly sought to build on new areas of organizing opportunities. The power and creative ideas within our organizing community is really led by this guy. When we have a meeting of the organizing committee of the board, it's really quiet until Eric speaks. and once he's had to say what he's got to say, then everybody else can contribute to it. But Minnesota is the leader in that approach. You've done a magnificent job in any number of areas, but sadly enough, These are times when Council 5 and its leadership, Elliott Mike, Council Executive Board and new board, all of the affiliated locals and their boards are going to be called upon to do more. This is a difficult time across the country with the insecurities and the frustrations and the lack of certainty for what so many people's future looks like. We're going to be called upon to do more to protect our members and their families, to protect them from what I consider the harsh realities of our time. And certainly we in the public sector who try and provide service to this nation. As we meet today, give or take a few, 15 million Americans are looking for permanent jobs and can't find one. 15 million people. Many of these have been out of work for 26 weeks or more. Congress leaves this town without doing anything whatsoever for workmen's compensation, for all of those things that are absolutely needed by millions and millions of families across this country. With 15 million, some who would be in that number would just have given up looking for work, just can't find it, don't believe they will find it, are being asked to work for wages for which they cannot sustain themselves. For us in the public sector, these were people whose salaries, when they worked, paid our salaries for what we do. The taxes from good-paying jobs paid for the programs we do and deliver, and for our salaries and our services. So many of us are doing far beyond what we ought to be called upon to do, simply because proper staffing is not there, whether it's institutional or what have you. If we hired enough people so we could do our job properly, those we serve would be a lot better off. We do the jobs that the private sector, in their opinion, cannot squeeze out enough profit, so they let us do it. We do the jobs that are the most dangerous and the most difficult. We do the jobs that help government run. Never forget, sometimes we're really even ashamed to talk to folks over the back fence and tell them what we do because we feel so lacking in security and dignity ourselves. You ought to stand up and tell your across-the-fence neighbor, I am a public employee. I work for the state or the county or the city or whatever, but I do the jobs that make life worth living in this political jurisdiction. Yeah. And sometimes you have the tough jobs of just taking people out of society who society has decided should not be among us. Tough jobs. We do the jobs that dictate the quality of life in our neighborhoods, our communities, our towns, our counties, and across our nation. You are called upon on a daily basis to help make government work. You may be a social worker or a probation officer, a laborer, correction officer, or any of the various classifications that we represent. Whatever you do, you provide a service. You might be a child care provider or a daycare provider. You provide a valuable service to the people and the citizens of Minnesota. You are entitled to the respect and dignity that goes with providing a service that deals with the quality of life. And you ought to be. You ought to be thanked by every citizen of the state of Minnesota because you're doing things that need doing. Now, we, like every other group of workers in our society, seek only to earn a decent living for ourselves and our family. We are aware, as a matter of fact, many of us became painfully aware maybe 2 or 3 days after we got hired that this is not a job I'm going to get rich doing. But what I ought to do is be able to do my job without somebody peering over my shoulder, looking down my back and hassling me every week. And our simple request to be treated with respect and dignity, to be allowed to earn a decent living, those very notions today is being challenged. There are folks who will make the argument, you're not entitled to be treated with respect. You're just not entitled. This is in our country, folks who contribute much more to the quality of life of all people. Folks look down your nose at you like you're a long-lost stepchild. We may be able to earn a living as we fight our way through, the question is, will that living be decent? We are faced with a tough question. Can I maintain the lifestyle I have? Can I afford the lifestyle I seek? These are tough questions, and for some of us, we may not even get the ability to enjoy the answer to the question because our futures are in the hands of other people. Let one or two of them try to get by on a child care provider salary. Let one of them try to go for a week or so on Social Security. Let one of them just try and figure out how to survive in this crazy economy at the level that we live at. This is the central question, whether or not we're going to have a decent lifestyle. And to that question, we don't have clear answers. The American people as a whole really adapts to their circumstances. We are willing to work harder, as many of us do. We're willing to work longer, as many of us do. We're willing to work 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. And we've got families who husband and wife don't see the children at the same time because they're passing each other going and coming. I'm not surprised if some kids wander off. It's bound to happen. We are a better nation than that. I can remember a time when 1 job was enough. That's no longer the case. We've got parents moving in with children, grown children moving back in with their parents, because neither group can make it by themselves. We've got an incredible problem with the working poor. Now, that may not be anybody in this room, but there are millions of people out there who are living from paycheck to paycheck, and we just 1 paycheck ahead of a lot of people we serve. And I had a feeling, but I didn't want to be the first one to say it. 48 to 50 million Americans 2 years ago, and perhaps still now, I suspect, without access to affordable health care. We are now, and we were talking earlier, 2 or 3 days ago, a report came out that right now, the poverty level in the country is the same as it was in 1964. 14.9% of our people live in poverty every single day. And we have poverty, this picture in our mind that these are poor minority people. This is equal opportunity poverty. That's right. It is all over. I mean, we're moving now to food pantries and other ways and means of just keeping life going. We are a better nation than that. Thank you so much.
Hold on, we got something here for you.
You've seen Council 5, the organizers, and our great VMOs. We wear a certain black jacket to identify us. And we like to call it our badass jacket. And so in recognition of Bill's great service to our union and one of the best organizers our union has ever seen, we thought we'd give him one of the Council 5 badass jackets.